Hello everyone and welcome along to the VCO ProSIM Series. My name is Ben Constanduris and I am honoured to bring you along this journey, the first round of an 8-round championship with a mantra of the VCO, combining the virtual and real worlds in motorsport to the best level possible. And we've done that you tonight, from Formula 1 drivers to Formula E drivers, plenty of GT drivers, and then the very best from the world of sim racing on iRacing. Multiple world champions such as Sebastian Job, Martin Kroenke and Joshua Rogers, names that you will know of. And we've got 2 races for you this evening as well for your enjoyment. First up, in just a couple of minutes' time, will be the fun race qualifying. Tonight, the fun race will be participated with the sim drivers, so they will then take the 20-minute race at 8:20. This is CET, so European time, and then we'll get into the championship race, where both drivers will race in the 40-minute race with a changeover pit stop, but qualifying will be done by the esports racer, whilst for the real racer, while the first of the stints will be done by the esports racer. So lots of action for our pros and our esports racers for the next couple of hours. And we are very, very happy to have you along with us. Thank you so much for joining. And you may have seen on Twitter just a couple of chats about what's happening tonight, because some of our names are huge in the world of online and on motorsport. Look at this entry list. Charlie Martin and Jimmy Broadbent, the very, very well-known esports influencer. Bruno Spengler and Martin Kroenke line up in the number 5 car. Robert Wickens is with us. Further down, Romain Grosjean, Formula 1 driver. Antonio Felix da Costa, Formula E champion. Tony Kanaan, Sage Karam, also loves his iRacing as well as being an Indy 500 starter. We've got Philipp Eng teaming up with Sebastian Job, who recently became world champion on iRacing. Graham Carroll also with us this evening. Will Stevens, plenty of names that you will recognise, including the 33. Max Verstappen and Maximilian Benecke, surely the favourites. On page 3, we continue with massive names. Augusto Canapino and Sami Matti-Trogan for Williams Esports. They will be a force to be reckoned with. Beitz Gewisser is our female representative for this evening. And we have Rubens Barrichello in the 111, Rafael Marcello and Alex Arana in the 999, and look at 92, Ayachan Guven and Joshua Rogers. Again, one of the real favourites of the race. And here is the prize pool. They are winning money this evening, $1,000 for the winner, a total prize pot of $5,000 and points all the way down to 30th position. So we'll see lots of fighting throughout the fields tonight. An exciting prize is awaiting the Fun Cup winner at the end of the season, and a Simulator Pro simulator thanks to Sifat Performance. And in our championship race, the D-Box G3 system has kindly been donated, which is effectively motion simulation for our champions. So lots of money, lots of prizes to fight with, and this is the championship format, with our second commentator, Sumil, taking you through the formats.
Well as the main championship one. So we begin initially with the fun race, and today they'll be racing Lotus 79s around Watkins Glen. The idea, well, it's pretty simple. We're going to have a 10-minute qualifying early on, and only one group of drivers will be competing. So this week we're going to have the E-racers. The next time out, it will be the Pro World, Real World racers who will be taking part in this one. And the best part, the car and track is only revealed a couple of hours before the race begins. So it's all a bit of surprising for these drivers. As I mentioned, 10 minutes worth of qualifying, a 20-minute sprint race, and it's just about fun. And this week, the car in question is the good old Lotus 79. Then, of course, we move on to the championship race, the one with the big Formula 3 cars. Here, the real world pros and the esports drivers both share a machine. It's a Dallara F3. Lots of drivers who are racing here at this championship have driven this car, and the format is pretty simple. 10 minutes of qualifying, 40 minutes of racing, 25 minutes at the max for each driver in the car, with 6-minute pit window where they have to swap the drivers. And the best part, according to me, it's one that really makes my heart feel warm. The tracks are voted for by the fans. There was a big vote, and eventually we had Motegi winning. Every driver scores points for himself or herself, and eventually the team will end up getting the points. Top 30, of course, as you can see on the screen, will be the ones who will be adding points into their championship standings. And of course, there are bonus points for your qualifying. So if you get pole position, you get 3 points. P2 gets 2 points, and P3 gets 1 extra point for qualifying in that order. And although we have 8 rounds in this championship, only the best 6 will count. So there's a drop run in question, 2 of them, in fact. And that could spice things up. And the money, the competition, well, it all leads to a really big prize pot. $50,000. It's no joke, this one. The racing here will be pretty intense. And of course, coming to the first event for the day, we're going to have the fun race. And it's something really awesome, this one. The Lotus 79, a car that you'll probably not be able to drive in the real world. It's here in iRacing, it's pretty realistic. And that is going to be the car that these guys will be driving here today. And what a circuit we have in store. Watkins Glen, the boot layout with the chicane. Tell you what, Ben, there should be some properly exciting racing here today.
And we are already into the action with qualifying for the ProSIM Series, the fun race with our esports racers. And let's head over then to the world feed and see how they're getting on.
Of course, we are seeing the cars right now in here at Watkins Glen for qualifying. These Lotus 79s, mind you, folks, quite the beast, these things. Of course, they have carried the good old Costa DFP V8 engine, and back today, this was a proper beast. Of course, right now for these drivers, it's a 10-minute session qualifying. They've got to go in there, give their best laps, and currently, as it stands, Sebastian Job, the Red Bull Esports driver, who recently won the Porsche Esports Super Cup, is the one currently on top of the lap time. Well, he's put it one lap, 37.356. Guess who's behind? Behind him is Maximilian Benecke of Team Redline, and he's often known as 10K Benecke because of his outrageously huge I rating. He, in fact, is the first driver in history to get to 11K I rating, and he's right there behind. And the gap? Well, it's only 0.09 of a second as it stands between Job and Benecke. Behind, of course, we've got Oscar Mangan and Graham Carroll. That would be our top 4. With Sindres Estas in P number 5. Of course, the car you're seeing on screen right now, that is none other than Benecke. That is Sebastian Job, I beg your pardon, the number 33 machine that we have on screen right now. And Watkins Glen, of course, it's a circuit that can be a bit divisive at times. Some people love it, some people don't, but I personally find it to be quite an entertaining one with the really wide layout, with some really good racing on offer, particularly when you consider lots of big overtaking opportunities like turn number 1, the downhill descending right-hand corner, then past the S's, then to the back stretch. Of course, you can use the bus stop chicane to your advantage. So multiple places where you can really go in there and make your presence be felt in terms of making an overtake.
Sumil, an amazing array of liveries that we've got on offer, not just in this race, but also in the F3 race. Incredible work from our livery guys. We look at number 9, Oscar Manang. We're going to have to get used to the different names and colours as we go through all the different races, because in the fun race across the season, it's a brand new track and a brand new car every single week. So throwing these professional sim races into I'm not that familiar with, it's quite exciting.
It is indeed. It should be quite interesting because these drivers and these teams essentially have just been told about these cars and this particular track, well, pretty late in the day. So for them, trying to practice, trying to understand what's going on has been a bit of a tricky task. And even more so for the F3 Championship, because we saw the track being changed on very late on. And for the fun, basically, these guys pretty much had no real idea about what car and what track they're going to use. Now it's come to a Lotus 79, which isn't exactly the most popular car on the iRacing service. For them, getting into this machine, trying to practice, trying to understand what's going on, and trying to make sure they don't spin out, that's going to be quite the task, Ben. Right now, of course, the drivers are trying to drive to the track limit. Sometimes, as you can see on the screen, it can get a bit hard. Nevertheless, if they keep it on track, the race should be quite fun.
So they're not allowed to reset back the pits on the track. They do need to come into the pit. Look then at the graphics of the top 18 so far. And that is why we are seeing people coming in. They will then do a pit stop. They can change their tyres. They can do what they like, but they can't reset. So watching Graham Carroll here. He's in the 000. Not entirely sure why he's labelled 000. Because that's not his number on his entry. But either way, Carroll there in 5th position right now. And interesting to see the gaps. When we look at esports racing, generally the gaps are very, very small. But when you throw in a car that they're not very used to and a track they haven't really practiced on, they haven't had the ability to refine themselves to a degree. And therefore we are seeing slightly larger gaps between the drivers. Graham Carroll with his Red Bull racing helmet on. He is a Red Bull esports driver. And a little bit of traffic there going into the bottom section of the circuit. So perhaps not on a flying lap right now, but plenty of improvements. Sebastian Job, though, laid down the gauntlet very, very early on with that 37.356. And for the moment, not a huge amount of improvers.
Yep, not much right in there. And nevertheless, the gap, just look at it behind. What is it? 900ths of a second. That's not too much. But now, of course, Grant Carroll is in P number 5. He could do something. And of course, Carroll is a teammate of Sebastian Job in the Porsche Esports Super Cup racing for Red Bull Racing Esports. So he certainly knows what Job is all about. Of course, in qualifying, it's just about getting in there, trying to put your best lap time, especially for the Lotus 79, a clean lap time, because this is a properly hard car to drive with all the power that's coming in from the back. And remember, Ben, in these old machines, the case is that there is no traction control, there is no power steering or something like that. You are the traction control as the driver. You've really got to tiptoe your way around, try to balance out the urge of putting your throttle all the way down in there. So that's going to be a major factor. But nevertheless, don't forget, folks, these guys, the best esports racers in the world, they know exactly what they're doing. Benecke comes across the line once again. Does he get pole position provisionally? The answer, not quite.
Interestingly, though, Graham Carroll spoke to me of VCO Esports Studio, and he was saying that whilst we know the form to be as it is in iRacing right now in the World Championship, a lot of the high-end racing in iRacing right now is in GTs. The Porsche Super Cup is in a GT car, and the GT Championship obviously is in a GT car. So to have these guys in single-seaters, perhaps that changes things a little bit. And when we had the single-seater championship for years and years and years, we had the same champion, and Martin Kroenke was a multiple champion. But since we've gone into Porsches and GTs, maybe he's struggled a little bit more. Sitting in P5 right now, Kroenke, a man that we see in the mid-pack most of the time when it comes to the Porsches. But the form is pretty much the same, though, isn't it? Job leads, Benecke second, Kashub, Carroll, Mangang, Kroenke, and if we look a bit further down, outside the top 18, Sami-Matti Trojan down in 33rd position, yet to get a lap. Alejandro Sanchez, Freak Shot, 7th position, so lots of names still getting used to this car.
Yep, exactly. this Lotus 79 machine is exactly the most popular car on iRacing, because normally, oh my goodness, big oversteer moment at the back for quite a few drivers. But yeah, coming back to the point, the thing is, most professional sim racing drivers, like most of them that we are seeing right now, they generally tend to compete in GT cars like the Porsche Carrera Cup car, or maybe GT3 machines, GTEs, sometimes even LMP2s nowadays because of its rising popularity. Coming back to single seaters is like coming back to full circle, basically, because that's what most people tend to start out with on iRacing. And the Lotus 79, yeah, it's more of a fun car, let's call it that way. That's probably why we've chosen it right here for the fun event. And for them, just adapting to it can be a bit hard, of course. If you can see Joshua Rogers, a Porsche Esports Super Cup champion, running wide there at turn number 1, just kind of gives you an idea how tricky this car is to drive, even more so when you've barely got any practice in your bag, because these drivers usually tend to do, 20, 30, 40 hours worth of practice for every pro event. For this one, there's literally none.
So Sebastian Job has the pole position. We actually have the checkered flag, so plenty of our drivers are now finishing laps. And I thought Josh Rogers was going to be on a lap, but he decided that he was never going to make it and improve on his time set down there in 12th position. So Josh Rogers, 0.8 of a second back over his rival. Remember Josh, the 2019 world champion, Porsche Super Cup champion. Sebastian Job taking that title away from him this year, and 0.8 of a second separate the two drivers. So, as I say, the form book is ripped up, but as we've already said, Sunil, this is about fun, this is about enjoyment, and these cars move around a lot, and therefore good fun to be had. Yes, though, there are still prizes to be won come the end of the season, but plenty of the drivers bailing into the pits and not setting any more times. We've still got people out there, but I'm surprised Simona is still on a lap, because the checkered flag came out quite a long time ago, and we are 12 minutes into the session now. So I think we're pretty much done then for the first grid that we have.
We are indeed, and of course quite a few people in the chat also questioning where is Jimmy Broadbent. Jimmy Broadbent currently stands in P number 44, believe you me. It is quite a long way behind for Jimmy. Of course,
So that's the end of the session then. So let's head back to the studio, and I think we've got a very special guest with us from the world of Formula One. Thank you very much. In fact, there's the starting grid, but we'll go through that in a little bit. Sebastian Job ahead of Benecke. Sunil is to this side, and Romain Grosjean should be appearing on the other side, I think, because we're about to chat to him. We'll get to the grid in just a second before we go into the race itself. So there is Roma. Can you hear me, Roma? How are you?
Yeah, hi. I can hear you very well. I'm all right. Yourself?
Yeah, we're not too far away, actually. I'm only up the mountain from you, Roma. But have you not had any time to practice at all, having just come back from Formula One in Turkey?
I have done a little bit of practicing, but I was aiming on Laguna Seca, and then Max tweeted today that he wanted Motegi. And then out of the blue, the polls went to Motegi, but it looks like a cool track. To be fair, I didn't do the pre-practice session. I was getting ready to drive whilst my teammate is doing a permanent race, but just realized we're not out. So, yeah, I guess I'll find out how it goes in quali.
And for you, why have you decided to get yourself involved with sim racing so heavily with your team? Because you're really a force to be reckoned with out there in the world of sim racing now.
Yeah, we're trying to do the best we can, and that's my philosophy. When I do something, I do it 100%, and I really see sim racing booming. Obviously, the lockdown has helped a lot, but yeah, it's been great experience. I really want to get involved with the boys and helping them, and also trying to get a bridge between sim racing and real racing, and seeing if we can find any talent and get them with a sponsor, Praga Cars, into racing, proper racing. And I must say, I'm having fun. I'm getting involved. I'm driving myself a little bit, far from the lap time I would like to do, but I guess I've got a lot of learning to do.
Thankfully, you've got a whole team of people that can help you on any platform you want, whether it be iRacing or R-Factor. You've had a little bit of experience in both. Is this a place where you can feel comfortable? And what are the differences between driving a real car and sim racing for you?
Well, I must admit that some of the things in sim racing are very, very representative in terms of how you need to brake and release the brake and so on. What I struggle a little bit sometimes is the line. Normally on the real track, the racing line is not only one width, and you've got a little bit more. Whereas on sim racing, there are corners where if you're not exactly on the racing line, you lose a lot of time. So it's just finding that limit and getting used to the sense of speed, which is very different from real life to sim racing. But generally, I'm having a good time and really enjoying being with the boys and seeing the results, on R Factor 2, on Race Room, or on iRacing.
Awesome, Romain. Thank you very much. Get yourself back into that practice session, and we look forward to seeing how you get on this evening.
Thank you very much.
So here is the grid then. Sebastian Job will be on pole position with Maximilian Benecke alongside him. Kei Kashub in third position and Graham Carroll on the outside of row 2. Then it's Oscar Mangan, Martin Kroenke in sixth position, Martin van Loosenhoorn, and then Sindre Setas. Pablo Lopez in ninth position with Samuel Liebert. Then Enrique Andre and Josh Rogers only down there in 12th position. Jürgen Franke, 13th. Salva Talens in 14th. Simona Maria Marceno in 15th position, and Patrick Heusmann from Red Bull down in 16th position, a second off the pace. Jeremy Bouteloup, Alexander Voss, Danny Elgabe, Alex Arana for Williams down in 20th spot. Very, very tight around that 1 second mark. Olli Pakala in 21st, Nicholas Koitz, and then Felix Ludig, Dennis Weiss in 24th. Tommy Osgaard, Cooper Webster, Chris Lulham, Yannick Lachin. Gives you an idea of just the names that we've got in this grid all the way down. Nils Koch, Florian Denzer, Luis Galliana, Lucas Muller down in 32nd, and it continues. Thomas Pedian, Andrea Boycha, Sami Patti-Krogan, Frank Schlossmann, and the rest of our field. The cars are on the grid. We are about to go racing. Alejandro Sanchez, 39th. 15 seconds to the start. Freak Shot down in 41st. Jimmy Broadbent at the tail of the field. And it was not even more. Mr. Dooley down in 48th position. Alex Premer, Charlie Martin, those guys were entered when they shouldn't have been, so they're not on the grid. Waiting for the lights to turn green. And off we go. There'll be wheel spin aplenty with cold tyres, and there's already a couple of cars at the back of the field facing the wrong direction and up in the air. Chaos at the tail of the field for those of them that didn't qualify well, but at the head of the field, the pros are really at it. Doesn't look like a very good start from Graham Carroll in that pink machine. He's lost a little bit of ground. Was that Graham Carroll? Yes, it was. He's just gone a little bit wide. You can go corner, but ultimately people with a bit more inside grip, and there's a big slipstream going down in towards the bus stop for the first time. We're going 3 wide, and on the inside Martin Kroenke looks to take the lead, and he's found a gap, and he hasn't got an overlap. In fact, they're not going through the bus stop at all. They go round the boot without the bus stop chicane. So a fantastic kind of oval view of side-by-side action before now we go into the more technical part of the second part of the circuit, where we sweep left and then right uphill. But Kroenke just missing out from holding on there and has had to settle for third position. Matt Backham and Thomas Pijat are in the pits.
Of course, that was a huge crash at the opening stretch of the race, but meanwhile, we are seeing quite a few epic battles right in the background. Of course, we saw Martin Kroenke get all the way up to P1, and then he fell back to P number 3. That's where he is right now. And Martin van Loosenhoorn for Team RAG Esports, he's in second, but there's a big accident. Daniel the grass.
Yeah, Elgabe dropping back. He was beat back before that accident, but our timing screens are so good that it's already been registered. We'll have progress from some cars at the back of the field, and Sebastian Job already trying to break the tone, knowing how powerful it is. He comes across the line in first position. Martin van Loosenhoorn second. Martin Kroenke third. Benecke didn't make a great start. He dropped down to fourth. Then it's Carroll Kekashub down to sixth position, and Oscar Mangan in eighth. A good start from Joshua Roberts in 9th position. And I know many of you will be wanting to know where Jimmy Broadbent is, 38th for the Brit.
Going past the S section with cold tyres, it can be a bit of a tricky task right now. Riding on board with Benecke, he's got the inside line for this one. It'll take some doing to make the move over here. Looks and lunges to the inside, and Maximilian Benecke sweeps into P number 3, Ben.
Nice move from Maximilian Benecke. Quite a brave move as well through that very fast right-hand turn. These cars might look like they've got a lot of grip, but the Lotus 79 really doesn't have that much grip at all. This is the very beginnings of aerodynamics in Formula One cars. The beautiful DFV engine that is whining, and we can hear replicated in iRacing. Of course, all the tracks laser scanned, and any of the cars that are built with the cooperation of Lotus. That's the 77 facing the wrong way. That is Dennis Weiss. It's a beautiful sight seeing these old cars with fantastic liveries looking so fantastic and driven so well. It's very, very rare that we see these kind of vehicles driven with such ability, Somil, because really, you know, all of our World Championship races don't happen in cars like this.
No, they don't. They absolutely don't. iRacing mostly thrives itself on modern-day race cars and the kind of accuracy that they've got. And look at these drivers just shutting out wide, trying to exploit all the track limits. Remember, folks, you can do that to a certain extent. The penalty points on offer here are 20. After 20 penalty points, you do end up getting a stop-go penalty. So, for every track limit infringement, so every time they go outside, they get 1 penalty point. That's why they do that. This should be interesting. As Ben mentioned, we don't often see these cars push the limits like this one. Trump is certainly pushing the limits by defending, and defend well he does.
But Graham Carroll looks to the inside here. Again, it's kind of well, it's not really much of a braking zone, and that's really what you need. Graham Carroll looking very, very hungry right now on the tail of Kroenke, and there is half an opening, but Kroenke holds on around the outside. Again, these big tyres producing grip, so you don't need to rely so much on the racing line to create grip. They all know that they need to really, really defend. Kroenke not looking particularly strong right now, and Graham Carroll certainly the stronger. But Graham's going to have to start looking in his mirrors because he's got Keika Shub behind in the kind of Williams livery that we saw a few years ago, that Saudi Arabian livery, the white and green. And whilst this race gets into its settling down phase, although I'm not sure it ever will, let's bring in Antonio Felix da Costa, who is one of our drivers this evening. Fantastic to have Antonio Felix da Costa with us, the FIA Formula E champion and a lover of sim racing. Antonio.
What's up, guys? All good?
Really good. How are you, and how are you looking forward to this evening?
I think it's going to be awesome, man. I think it's, you know, the winter's coming, cold weather again outside. You know, it's getting dark pretty early. So what else is better than for us to just sit in our simulators and, you know, have some fun against each other. So I think it's going to be cool. I think everyone's, you know, the real seasons are coming to an end now. So it's a great way for us to stay active.
And how has it been since winning the championship in Formula E for you? Has your life slightly changed? I mean, we always talk about world championships changing people. It looks to me like the Portuguese have just absolutely loved your championship win.
I mean, we've had a great year, like in sports in general, with you know, Felipe winning the WEC as well, and Le Mans. You know, we have surfers in the World Tour, golfers in the European Tour. So just in sports in general, it's been great for us. And for me, you know, yeah, it's changed a little bit, but I don't let it change me ever. You know, it's I do this for the fun. I do this because I love it. The only thing that's changed is really I feel like I have no free time. But you know, it's a good reason. It's a good problem to have. Let's put it like that.
And the season begins to kick off. So how much time are you really going to be able to dedicate to sim racing with testing soon for Formula E and then the race come January?
Yeah, not so much actually. No, actually, I got home from Bahrain from the WEC race just on Monday, and then I've been in the Estoril racetrack, which is 5 minutes away from my house. You know, driving, helping some drivers and coaching, and driving GP3 cars and F3 cars and whatever it was. So I'm actually home, but I haven't had a lot of time to sit in my simulator, and then I'm flying again tomorrow morning 8 a.m. for some Formula E testing. So it's really non-stop. And my girlfriend's upstairs. She's a little bit angry at me actually because I chose the sim instead of her this evening. But I'll take care of that problem later.
And why wouldn't you? We've got a battle for the lead. Sebastian Job and Martin van Loosenhoorn going side by side in the Lotus 79s around Watkins Glen. It really is something that bubbles the passion, Antonio. Just amazing to see.
I mean, this racing is great, and these guys, actually, the pro sim racers, they are unbelievably cool to watch, and you can see how close they get to each other and they respect each other. I think between the pro drivers, we're going to see a little bit more contact. Let's say it's not deliberate, but we just maybe don't judge the sim so much or whatever. But it's amazing to watch these guys race.
And how hard is that Formula 3 car to really master? Does it feel like you're back in British Formula 3?
Yeah, close enough, I would say. I mean, it's quite easy to feel quick, but those last like 4 or 5 tenths, the real details, it takes a lot of time. And unfortunately, I didn't have the time to do that. But I think we'll see some really, really quick, pro drivers and actually getting close to the sim racers. When you guys give us the time, we can actually get close enough. But yeah, I think we're gonna see great racing tonight.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm going to let you get on because I think you can do a little bit more practice. So enjoy this evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Antonio Felix da Costa,
Cheers,
the
guys.
FIA Formula E champion, one of the amazing names that we've got on our grid this evening. But even the esports races are putting on such a show, and Benecke now trying to get down the inside 3 wide going into the spoon turn. It's incredible, Somil.
This is crazy racing, still going side by side for the lead. Sebastian Job is trying to defend, but down the inside he goes, and then Benecke wants to snatch it out, and he does, going on the grass slightly. Door-to-door, wheel-to-wheel action, not door-to-door action, it's not GT racing, so let's say side by side they go once again, and that's the beautiful thing about Watkins Glen. There is always space to go too wide. It's incredible.
And they are still side by side, 2 wide for the lead, and that is now a change of position. Martin van Loosenhoorn taking the lead of the race, and suddenly Sebastian Job for the first time, Martin van Loosenhoorn in 3rd position. Job is down to 2nd, which puts Benecke into the lead of the race. And if they continue to squabble like this, they're going to allow Martin Cronke to join the party. So fantastic to see a name like that so high up in the field after kind of struggling with Porsches over the last couple of years.
Absolutely, Martin Cronke hasn't quite been able to find his feet with the Porsche Cup car. Not that he's been doing a bad job, but let's say he could be doing far, far better, especially when we know what his potential is like in other cars. But right now, in P4, he's just finding his feet so well. There'll surely be lumps and bumps around the way for all these drivers in a series like this one. But for him right now, it's all smooth sailing. But that could change as he's coming up using the draft. And guess who's the driver up ahead? It's Martin van Loosenhoorn. Are we going to see him move this time, Ben?
Lots and lots of defending going on from our leader. I guess these Lotuses probably are maxing out as they get into this corner. So that's why we've seen the slipstream having such a great effect. Round the outside, Sebastian Job goes, and he's now got the inside for the next corner. So that momentarily puts him in the lead, but they still run side by side. And of course, the next corner from that is a right-hander. How many cars we got there now? 6 cars for the lead of the race.
This is the kind of racing you can expect everywhere in the VCO ProSIM Series, even in the fun one, even in the main Formula 3 series. Right now, Sebastian Job has a chip on his shoulder rather, and Benecke, Loosenhoorn, Cronke, and now even Graham Carroll all want a bit of this action. Remember folks, this is the fun race. All these ProSim drivers are racing in this one, and man, they are putting on quite the show.
Quite a lot of drivers have retired, though. We've got about, I'd say, 12 cars now out of the race. The likes of Patrick Huysman, Freek Schothorst is out of the race. Cooper Webster, sadly, Felix Ludding. But Jimmy Broadbent holds on, and he's not last. 25th position for Jimmy right now, ahead of Bence Nemeth, Ollie Pakala, Jan Venninger, and Chris Lullum, Luke Browning, and Dennis Weiss we saw facing the wrong direction. So quite impressive that Jimmy's slowly making his way up the order, and I know that we were speaking to him a little bit later, a partner of the VCO series, and fantastic to have him. Here he is in the 00 car. He'll be a kind of a celebrity wild card throughout the season, partnering with different celebrity drivers as he goes. So he'll benefit sometimes from that. But here is that lead battle once again, and spectacular action. Sebastian Job under pressure every single corner, but for the moment, mostly staying ahead of Martin van Loosenhoorn second, Benecke third, Kroenke fourth, Graham Carroll fifth, and Kekashub in sixth.
Graham Carroll was trying to get something on Martin Kroenke right there. Bit of a sneaky move. He put his nose in there, but Martin Kroenke immediately shut in the door and telling him, Graham, maybe not this time. I can try and fight you very cleanly. And he snaps. Oh, Graham Carroll with the biggest oversteer moment you will see all day. You see, when we say that the drivers are the traction control, this is what we mean. Proper old school racing. Carroll probably had a brown underpants moment right there.
As you know well, when you get a slide on, when you get the rear stepping out in a real world car, it's easy to feel. In a sim race, unless you've got motion, it's almost impossible because your seat is not moving around underneath you like the car is. And so really, really impressive at any time of big snap oversteer like that these guys, well, they can feel it, but they're not feeling it in the same way as our pro drivers will be later on. These guys have conditioned themselves to kind of see oversteer and feel it a little bit within the steering wheel whilst they're almost rigid in the seat. Now, that looks a bit like track limits, doesn't it? But actually, weirdly, on this iRacing model, that's totally allowed. I'm imagining it's modelled around the NASCAR race where they don't seem to worry about track limits at all. And that first corner, there is no incident points for going that wide. Although if I was race control, and we do have human race control, I'd be wrapping some knuckles. On the inside, Martin van Loosenhoorn now has the inside line. But will Sebastian Job hang it out round the outside this time?
And Job finds all the grip in the world around the outside and just swoops past and keeps his position in, because that's what Sebastian Job does. He's on a high. He's only recently won the Porsche Esports Super Cup, probably the most prestigious championship in all of iRacing. And man, he's reinforcing the idea that he is one of the best, if not the very best, pro sim race around. Loosenhoorn snaps, and now Benecke on the charge. He's going to bounce on this one. Max Benecke is going to get P2, or is he? Not quite. Yes, he has done it in fact. So Loosenhoorn with that big mistake loses the position, and meanwhile, Graham Carroll and Martin Kroenke, goodness me, they're properly going on for a death match. They're punching each other constantly, and Kroenke gets the move done.
Absolutely amazing side-by-side action. Graham Carroll still around the outside. Kroenke's car looks like the old Renault, doesn't it? Fantastic liveries have been drawn up throughout the whole series. And just feel for our livery driver, because next week, round 2, and we will have a brand new car and a brand new track for our fun race, and it'll be the real world drivers that will be participating. If you want to check in and get a bit more information, then make sure you go to vco.info/live timing, where we have the live timing up for you. You can follow your favourite driver and find out exactly how he's getting on, like Jeremy Boutaloop down in 15th position, Alex Arana in 16th position, and of course Jimmy Broadbent 24th spot, as we watch from Kekashub, watching exactly what's going on. Look at how good and how efficient that slipstream is, but as soon as he's in clear air, he just hits a brick wall.
He does indeed, and that's the thing with these old cars. They're not as aerodynamically efficient as the modern day Formula 1 cars of today. So that's why it just plays such a huge role. And the slipstream, well, it gives them so much of a boost. As you can see there, Sebastian Job losing the lead, getting on the grass, and just making that one critical mistake. And the thing is, with these Lotto 79s, it can be quite a tricky task to actually go in and make that move. So you've got to put on the pressure consistently. You've got to make sure that the driver ahead of you snaps, cracks under pressure, and makes that one critical mistake. Job made that mistake, and Maximilian Benecke is in the lead. He made that move with some guile, though.
Now, remember, of course, that all of these drivers will be racing again a little bit later on. Qualifying for our championship race will be with the real world drivers. But the esports racers will take the first stint of our championship race. So we'll see them at the start, and they'll hand over to their counterparts midway through the race. And they'll now be kind of back timing, won't they, Somil? Because 3.5 minutes remaining, the possibility of easily taking the lead of the race, because that slipstream is so efficient, but they're trying to work out exactly where they need to be to get that checkered flag first.
Exactly. It can be a bit tricky for them just to figure out where it's going to be. So we're, of course, racing against the time, not in terms of the laps. Of course, not a major shift in terms of philosophy, but just nothing to consider. Luzenot comes in, but so comes Job. Sends it to the inside line with some ferocity. He's battling for the lead, almost making contact. And Max Benecke, wow, with some intensity, shutting the door on Job and saying, Sebastian, you may be the Porsche Esports Super Cup champion, but I am the man at the moment.
Yeah, Benecke doesn't have one of those titles to his name yet, although he is the driver with the largest I rating, which effectively you get points every time you do a race in iRacing, whether you're a rookie like me or whether you're a pro driver like these guys. And Benecke now over 11,000. His I rating. It was amazing when he got to 10. There are a couple of drivers now that are in the 10s, but he is on 11. Bearing in mind, some of our teams, pro and real world driver, combined don't have 11,000 I rating. So that's just incredible to see how he's got to that point. Must be hundreds, if not thousands, of different races on iRacing over the years.
Absolutely, you can push up your I rating by competing in all the races, and Benecke certainly has done that. He's proved himself time and time again. Well, he may have haters, he may have lovers. One thing for sure, he's always noticed. And one of the Wickens Esports drivers putting up the man, of course, gap only 2 minutes per second as we come across the turn number 1. Now, Ben, this is a tricky part of the circuit. The S's, you've got to feather the throttle around, and if your tires are torn, which may not be the case at this stage of the race, have a big snap up oversteer and end up spinning. Not a case right now, though, because we're not seeing a runner come up through. But that aside, look at this, the battle for the lead. Benecke pushed to the outside line. Job is fighting.
But Benecke has the inside line for the next corner. And as this race develops, it looks like it's not so easy to go all the way around the outside. Everything's got more up to temperature. Job thinks about the inside line for the right-hander. This is uphill, so you carry quite a lot of speed into it. And again, it's not really an easy braking point. Oh, Job is round! Job has thrown it out. That's exactly what the risk is happening, and now he needs to be careful not to reverse into the rest of the pack. Everybody manages to avoid him, but Sebastian Job has thrown his possibility of winning away by that little error. Just a half a wheel, quarter of a wheel on the grass, and he spins around.
Oh my goodness me, Sebastian Job just pushing the limits and then spinning around, losing all these positions. Look at this battle, Keshub, and he's fighting with Simone Maria Marciano. So, when I came into iRacing commentary for the very first time, I was told that Simone Maria Marciano is one driver who just does not leave any margins. He's got the position on Keshub, who seems to have a lot of front wing damage. But meanwhile, Ben, while all this has happened, Joshua Rogers, he started in P number 12. Rogers has made his way up to P number 5.
Not sure what's happened to Kekashub. As you say, he's got damage to the front right there. He was in the lead battle. I wonder whether he reacted to the spinning Job and caught somebody, caused a bit of damage. The leading group is now much more separated than it was. So more drama than just Sebastian Job there, but still side by side for the lead. And still around the outside, Maximilian Benecke on Martin van Loosnoord. Benecke trying to hold on here, and it's being watched by Martin Kroenke in P3. But this is the final lap, so not many corners left to get this result changed. Benecke's done such a good job at holding on, especially in the slipstream down into P3. Just a couple of corners remaining. The breaking point up here is an opportunity, but I feel like Martin van Loosnoord is not quite close enough, and certainly Martin Kroenke is not close enough. He's moving around a little bit, suggesting that maybe Graham Carroll is behind him. No, he's not. So it's just 3 now to the lead, to the end of the race. Just a couple of corners remaining, and the checkered flag awaits. I don't see an opportunity now for Martin van Loosnoord to change the positions. We lost Sebastian Job, a small mistake from the Red Bull driver. We've got a stop and go penalty for Graham Carroll for reckless driving, but it's Maximilian Benecke who takes the victory of the first of our fun races for the VCO ProSIM Series. And I guess in a few moments' time, when we speak to Maximilian, he is going to have a smile on his face, because that was it was a lot of fun for us to watch. Pretty frenetic, and I'm sure a lot of fun for these guys to jump in and just kind of enjoy iRacing for what it is. A variety of cars, a variety of tracks, and doesn't necessarily always have to be super serious like so many of these guys treat it. Benecke from Lucenoord and Martin Kroenke. We've still got guys coming across the line right now at the tail end of the field. And what happened to our man, Jimmy Broadbent? 22nd in the end for Jimmy. But Maximilian Benecke is your champion. And here is the last of our runners to come across the line. Alex Arana, I think we lost in the last lap. I'm not quite sure what happened to him, but he dropped to the tail of the field, sadly. One of the Williams Esports drivers, heavily associated to Williams Grand Prix team, the esports side of things, much like the Red Bull Esports team that Job and Graham Carroll are involved with. And they do all have to get themselves back to the pits before we finish the race, as any professional drivers would do. Doesn't necessarily happen in some of the rookie championships that I get involved with. As soon as the race is over, slam on the brakes and get yourself into the next server for the next race, and just keep doing that until sun rises, and then realise you need to go to bed. Great race though, Somil. Benecke really showing his class there, and patience as well.
No, absolutely. There could have been multiple moments where Maximilian Benecke could have just lost his temper and just snapped at that moment, but he didn't. He kept his calm and just eventually took complete control of the race. And even Martin van Lucenoord, to be very honest with you, there were certain times where it looked like he was just going to crash, perhaps make contact. And well, Lucenoord kept his calm, got P number 2. Kroenke came home in P number 3. I feel really bad for Sebastian Job, but nevertheless, Josh Rogers, according to me, the big winner for this one. 8 positions gained.
Yeah, Sonja Sitas in 5th position, Samuel Libert in 6th, Keiko Schub dropped to 7th. I think contact with Graham Carroll, that's why he had that damage. Pablo Lopez in 8th, Simon Murray Marcento in 9th, and Jeremy Bouteloup rounding out the top 10 with Salva Talens 11th, Enric Andre in 12th, Sebastian Job dropping down to 13th, Oscar Mange 14th, Andrea Boccia, then Danny Elgabe, we saw him spinning, so 16th was a good effort from him. Yannick Larcha, Niels Koch in 18th position, Lucas Muller 19th, and Alejandro Sanchez rounds out the top 20. Let's now join our winner of the race. Maximilian Benecke is with us on the line. Shame we can't see your face really, Maximilian, because I wanted to see that smile. Was that a good fun?
I'm very sorry you can't see my face. Unfortunately, I just couldn't set up the camera with the cable. It just didn't work. I'm sorry for that. But yeah, that was a fun race. I mean, it's meant to be a fun race. And it was quite funny. Especially that long straight and that big slipstream you get in the car is insane. So yeah, just try to battle as much as possible and then wait for the last lap. And then Sebastian decided to take the first road right, and then suddenly he was in the wall, and I was like, oh shit, we don't have a battle in the end. But I still had to defend against Martin. That worked out pretty well because that outside line suddenly has a good grip. So yeah, it was a very fun race, but now to the real one.
Yeah, did the track continue to change there? Because it did look like you had different lines working throughout the race.
Yeah, it was not really the track. I think, yeah, after a couple of laps, the outside line was a bit colder because there are not too many people driving around it. So that's where the tires just work a bit better, I guess. But I have no idea. I would need to look into the data what happened there. It was just grippy. I saw that Seb was already doing that. And that's when I figured that this might be the best line. So I tried to give them as less room as possible on the inside and then just send it around. And that worked.
You guys race each other week on, week out in the same type of car. How enjoyable is it to jump into something that I presume you haven't had much experience with, especially racing guys like this?
Yeah, it's very nice because we normally drive that Porsche GT3 Cup, and it's just so different to drive. And normally
Yeah.
I'm a couple of tenths behind that car, so it's good to see that in other cars I can still compete at this level. So that's what counts the most for me.
Awesome. And looking forward to joining Max Verstappen in the championship race. You guys had much practice together?
Yeah, we do, kind of. I mean, his timetable is quite busy, so it's not that easy for him to practice a lot. But he's just natural quick, and he just joins the server, and he's just like 1-2 tenths behind me. So he's really quick. I'm looking forward to the qualifying, which already is happening now.
Yeah, exactly. We probably should stop chatting. It's lovely to talk to you, Max, and enjoy the championship race.
Yeah, thanks a lot. See you.
Right then, let's head over to Motegi for the qualifying of the championship race. This is how we got here, thanks to a public vote, a very changeable public vote. Yesterday it was all about Laguna Seca, and then Jimmy Broadbent this morning decided to get everybody of his followers to vote for Zolder. And in response to that, if you were following on Twitter, then Max Verstappen, I don't know why, but wanted everyone to vote for Motegi. And look what happens when you're a Formula One driver for Red Bull and one of the most popular Formula One drivers in the world. We go to Motegi for qualifying.
And Motegi is quite the circuit, isn't it? We are seeing live pictures coming up, of course, from the qualifying session right here. And man, Motegi is a real mixture of everything. It's a circuit that can be really flowing at times. Then you've got the long straights and the slightly boxy corners. It's a really good mix. And from all that I've heard from all the drivers that I've spoken to, this should be a track where good racing is a given.
Yeah, now this is the first opportunity for us to meet some of our real book is one thing, but the virtual form book for those real world drivers is something very, very different. So the likes of Timo Glock and Max Verstappen, all Romain Grosjean, for instance, all incredible drivers. But we do need to see exactly who comes out on top in the virtual world. And someone like Aychan Guven, who is, by the way, a two-time French Carrera Cup champion and Porsche Junior this last year and a very fast Super Cup driver this last year. He is also an incredibly good sim racer. So we are waiting to get live pictures from qualifying, but Aychan Guven at the moment heads the field ahead of Danny Yukendela. Right, before we head over to the pro drivers in qualifying, let's have a quick word with Sebastian Job, who joins us just here. We're going to be a quick chat because Job is very, very conscientious about what's happening to his driver. So are we. We want to watch the racing. So, Sebastian, how fun was that first race? I know you spun, but it was still good, right?
Battling up until that point was incredible. A lot of respect between me, Max, and Martin. Yeah, some awesome side by side. Unfortunately, I just dipped a wheel in the grass, and you can't save it when you do that, especially with such a powerful car. Yeah, really annoyed, to be honest, but it's not the important race, so I can get away with it a little bit, get the mistakes out of the way. But yeah, I think the pace in this second race should be a bit better. I thought it was pretty good in the first one, but in this second one, think it's even better, so fingers crossed we can get a good result.
What about all of these changes of tracks? I saw you guys last night in a Laguna Seca server doing lots and lots of laps, preparing for Laguna Seca, and then chaos today.
Yeah, I had I tried to do all 4 tracks really. I managed to do every track pretty much, and I was pretty comfortable on any track. I was really hoping we didn't get Zolder and Laguna really, so either this or Philipp Eng, I would have been happy, and we got this, so I'm pretty happy with that. I've done quite a few hours of practice, so I'm feeling pretty comfortable. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. I know you're keen to watch your driver, Philipp Eng. I can't see exactly where he is right now, but it's pretty fast. You've got him trained well.
Yeah, we've been working together. I had a look at telemetry a bit. There's a couple of things that he carried over from the real world that I had to mention to him, that like this doesn't work here. Just
okay.
small things, but they'll help find the last few temps. So yeah, hopefully he can nail a good lap. I think I'm looking at he's 5th at the moment, so that's a good start. But I'll see what he can do. Hopefully top 5, and I think that's a really good spot to be in.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us, and fingers crossed it goes better for you in this race than the fun one.
Thank you.
Right, qualifying is on. Samil, what have you been missing?
There's been quite a lot going on. Max Verstappen in the number 33 car provisionally holds pole position, but take a deep breath. The gap to Lauren Heinrich behind is only 0.04 of a second. That kind of a gap really gets you on the edge of a seat. Makes you want to sit back, relax, have a bit of popcorn and enjoy the race up ahead. Of course, not long to go until qualifying ends, only around 3.5 minutes or something. But even behind, Guven, Sebastian, Philipp Eng, and Bruno Spengler. That's the top 6 as it stands. For those wondering, Romain Grosjean currently stands at B number 8. He's just been demoted back to B9 because Agustin Canapino B number 7. So on the whole, quite a bit of chopping and changing going on at quali, but Verstappen currently holding the advantage, not by much.
And so he should be, getting everybody to change tracks and at the last minute. The power of social media. Incredible story across the day to follow, to see Jimmy Broadbent and Max Verstappen bantering on Twitter, on social media, trying to get themselves the track that they want. Lauren Heinrich has just taken pole from Max Verstappen. There is Heinrich sharing the car with Carroll. That's going to be a strong lineup too.
That absolutely is. Graham Carroll, of course, as we all know, he's quite the driver in the Red Bull Racing Esports team for the Porsche Esports Super Cup. And man, on the whole, that kind of a team can really go in and make an impact in terms of a big race like this. And of course, on the whole, you've got such a big opportunity. Lauren Heinrich as well, a rookie champion in the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. So he's a man who knows exactly what he's doing.
2 minutes remaining of qualifying. Heinrich ahead of Aycan Guven. Verstappen in third. Philipp Eng fourth. Sage Karam, very, very proficient in iRacing as well. 5th position. In fact, he's part of a sim racing team, much like Max Verstappen is as well. These drivers good in the real world, but also very, very good in the sim world. Got to get used to that colour, the green for Guven, for Turkey, alongside Josh Rogers, the 92, kind of a throwback to their success with Porsche, both Porsche drivers in some way or another. And of course, Rogers driving with Guven in the Le Mans 24 Hours, I think. So good to see them at the head. Over to Josh Rogers, you'd expect them to do incredibly well as well. Right, here's Jimmy Broadbent in the right-hand side. Hi, Jimmy, how are you doing?
Oh, hello.
I didn't know you were coming either. Nice shirt.
No, I think I've popped up now. I think maybe I'm early.
You're representing tonight a Formula One team, are you?
Oh, well, no, I just thought I'd wear it. It makes it look a bit more official, you know, it makes it look a little bit cooler, but not really.
How fun was driving that Lotus 79? It looked a bit of a handful.
Oh, it's great, man. I love that thing. I mean, I outdid myself in qualifying by forgetting about certain rules. So I started last, but it was really fun sort of trying to drive back up through the field, trying to avoid the carnage that was in the midfield. But great car, I love it.
A bit of a tall order today. Both sim and real-world drivers, but at least mixing it with the very best. Good fun.
Always great. You know, it's always an awesome opportunity to spend the track with these guys, and because you know you don't always get that opportunity. But yeah, awesome. I'm looking forward to probably coming last.
Let's conclude qualifying together, Jimmy. Actually, the checker flag's already out, so these are the last laps for everybody. Verstappen on the pole position, just a couple of hundreds ahead of Guven, 0.05 of a second ahead of Heinrich. Then a little bit of a gap, actually, to Alexei Nesov, Formula 4 driver, I think he is. Augusto Canapino from Argentina, and Jimmy getting the gloves on, ready to go, because I think you will take the first stint, Jimmy. Where are you at the moment?
We're repping 41st right now, which I reckon is probably where all the cool kids hang out. So, yeah, only go out from here.
Not last. And only go forward.
Exactly. That's the strat. Right, I'm gonna go speak to Charlie. Ben, I'll see you later, mate.
All right, cheers, Jimmy. Thanks very much. Laps are being finished by all of our drivers. Bruno Spengler just goes up into 6th position, so an improvement from Spengler. Here is Nesov, Alexei Nesov, a Russian Formula 4 driver, sharing with Patrick Holtzman. That's going to be a strong team because Patrick Holtzman is a very, very proficient driver, and to have a pro real-world driver at the kind of pace that Alexi is. He's only 2/10 off Verstappen. That does bode well. Bruno Spengler well up there, 6th position. Augusto Canapino 7th. Sage Karam 8th. And laps are pretty much all now finished off. So qualifying was short and sweet for you guys out there in the world. But it is the 33 of Verstappen on the pole position by just half a tenth over Guven. But of course, they, as our real world drivers, will now jump out of the car. And we will get our sim drivers to do the first stint.
Absolutely. So the sim drivers will start the race. There is going to be a 6-minute pit window right down in the middle. And of course, if you do not adhere to that, if you pit later or earlier than that, you shall simply be disqualified. So the rules are pretty intense around here. And of course, it's going to be quite interesting for them. 25 minutes, the maximum driving time for each of the drivers. So it can either be the sim one or the real world. We are going to see driver swaps, which is not normally what you tend to see in a Formula 3 car, but because it's on the sim, because we've got the luxury of iRacing, we can experiment with things like that. And some of the combinations of the drivers and the teams is something that really excites me. I've already got goosebumps right here, and I'm not even kidding. This sort of thing really gets you pumped up and makes you so excited about watching just exactly what's going to happen.
And it's not a track, really, that we know very much of, is it? We've got 5 minutes before the start of the race, so not very long. As you can see, it's an oval, but actually none of the circuit that they use in MotoGP, and they did use, I was there once actually for World Touring Cars, none of it actually interacts with the oval, and the oval got destroyed or damaged in the earthquake a few years back, probably 10 years back now. And so they can't use it anymore, but it's a really entertaining track to race.
Absolutely. I remember Indy cars were back there at the Oval quite a long time ago. And now, of course, we have quite a few big series racing there at the Motegi circuit. We've got touring cars, we've got MotoGP. Meanwhile, here are the results from qualifying. And Max Benecke and Max Verstappen only just edging out pole position from Aintje Guven and Josh Rogers. Heydrich and Carroll behind in third, and Eng and Job starting fourth.
As we work our way down, great qualifying from Foley and then Huisman, Spengler and Canapino, and we'll run through the rest of the grid in just a few moments. But we do have to chat to our pole man, Max Verstappen, hot-footing from the Turkish Grand Prix to join us this evening. Max, as you would expect, I suppose, the pole position. You there, Max? I could just about see the top of your head. Got the Formula 1 style rig going on. Nice to be in the Formula 3 car, racing something a bit more familiar for you. Good to have a teammate.
So
hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Max. I think one of us was mute. I'm not quite sure who was.
Okay, well, I think it should be working now.
Yeah, we can hear you. Looking forward to doing this in a familiar single-seater. Got your pole position. That's exactly where you expected to be.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. I mean, could have been a bit better, but I like the F3 car, so it's fun to drive.
What about Motegi? What's the whole thing about Motegi? You've managed to get 25,000 votes or something on this track.
Well, I didn't really have a lot of time anyway to be on the sim. And I think Motegi, because we are with so many cars, you know, compared to the other tracks, it would be a mess. So I think this was the only track where you have a bit more space to do a proper qualifying session. And yeah, that's why. And it's a very flowing track. It's really cool in F3.
Well, thank you very much for attracting so much attention from your Twitter followers, because unbelievable competition between you and Mr. Broadbent as to getting the vote. Is that something you're going to do every week to make sure that's the track that you want?
I'll try. But yeah, let's see. I mean, I try to, of course, do every race possible in this championship because it's a lot of fun, also driving against the others. But let's see if it's necessary or not.
It's awesome to have you with us, Max. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm hoping you're going to have a great time. Benecke starting on the pole position. We're 1 minute from the race. So let's have a look then through the rest of the grid. Sage Karam in 9th position. Sanchez and Zug in 10th. Seta Camara and Lopez, Bolot-Bashi and Nemeth in 12th position. That should be a pretty strong group of both drivers with plenty of experience. Beitske Visser, the female racer. Niels Clark in 13th. Hyman Ludding, Sepeng Kashub down in 15th. Matt Campbell and Jeremy Bouteloup 16th. Van der Linde and Schottors, that should be a strong feat. I was tipping Marcello and Arana, but only down in 18th. Romain Grosjean 19th with Petit Jean in, and then Kroos and Lidet. Delatraz, Wickens, Robert Wickens, 22nd qualification for him. Bradley Philpott, 23rd. Nick Yellerly, 24th. Rubens Barrichello in 25th position. How cool is that, to say with Jürgen Franke? Heinemann 26th, Vervish 27th, Adam Christodoulou with Muller in 28th position. Job van Uitrecht in 29th. Tony Kanaan down there in 30th spot. Philippe Albuquerque moved into a new house today, 31st position. Then Jens Klingman and Schlottmann in 32nd spot. We continue. There are lots of cars. Will Stevens, Miguel Molina, Antonio Felix da Costa only 35th with Oli Pakula. And Wagner Benninger 36th. Erskiger and Vluzenord in 37th spot. Bortolotti and Setas. It's actually Harry Tinkle aboard that car this evening, 38th. Tomczyk and Florian Kruger in 39th. And Timo Glock in 40th. With Charlie Martin and Jimmy Broadbent down in 41st. Danny Ucudella 42nd. Not a good lap. Doesn't look like he said a decent lap at all. And we continue to the tail end of the field. Eduardo Barrichello in 45th. Oisgaard and Grindbergas in 46th with no time. And a name I missed. Very, very bad. We are about to go racing. The orange machine of Max Verstappen has been handed to Maximilian Benecke for the start. And no wheel spin whatsoever from Benecke. He's got movement. Rogers on the side, and then Carroll and Job behind him. We're back with our esports races through the first turn, and look how cleanly a start that was. Benecke, he is already stretching his advantage. We've got cars all over the place in the background, but that's kind of expected when we've got so many Formula 3 cars all trying to get through the same piece of tarmac. Massive lead from Maximilian Benecke.
Absolute carnage at the background. We saw some really big names involved in that one, but at the top, it's a familiar sight. Maximilian Benecke still holds on to the lead with Sebastian Job currently in second place. Man, that was some start in the background over there. Already we can see Dennis M. Weiss in the 77 car taking off Florian Kruger out of that one as well. And that just got really hard into turn one. Rather unfortunate, mind you. And the car of Josh Rogers and Aintjen Guven, who started second, find themselves P number 12.
That was a dreadful start then from our East. Josh Rogers not making a good start whatsoever. The Red Bull liveried machine in P2 is Sebastian Job. So he is ahead of another Red Bull driver, Patrick Heusmann, and then Graham Carroll. So 3 Red Bull cars line astern right now. And, of course, they're not Red Bull teams as such because they hand over to their real-world counterparts. But those 3 drivers are from the Red Bull Esports team.
Still nice and clean as we come across to end the first lap. The draft could be a major factor in these Formula 3 cars. Of course, the setups here, for those interested, are fixed. So essentially, we have 3 different setup options that we have for different drivers. And that only varies according to the track. So every single one of these drivers is on fixed setups. Meanwhile, there's a spinner in the background. Turn number 1 has claimed another victim. Somebody in the back has caused a huge pile of smoke, and perhaps the chances for a good podium disappearing in that very smoke right there.
That was Sindris Setas, I think, and another car
crash.
throughout the field, heading into the barriers on the inside line. Now, who was that? Sammy Matti Trogan, I think, now descending the timing screen. So mistakes all over the place. And yes, it was. And that is a destroyed car. So Augusto Canapino is not going to get a run tonight, because once you go into the pits, you cannot come out again. Here's a replay.
On the grass. On the grass. That's what happens with these Formula 3 cars. As beautiful and as advanced as they may be, with all the technology in the world, so much aerodynamics to assist them, you put a wheel on the grass, it's simple logic, you are going to end up with a wildly uncontrollable car, much like a Raging Bull, mind you.
Remember, no fast repairs, and you can't tow side by side for second position there by the looks of things. So that would have been Job and Huisman. Didn't see exactly who managed to get through. Huisman behind Job, so that did not change. But there was certainly a challenge on from Huisman. And of course, everything's going to change once we have our pit stop. Reminder that we will see our real-world drivers a little bit later on to do the second stint. There's a pit window of just 6 minutes in the middle of the race. A driver cannot do more than 25 minutes per stint. So it basically leaves a window of 5 minutes and 59 seconds in the middle of the race to have a pit stop. And we've got to change another spinner further back. Who is that facing the wrong direction? Number 5, and that is Martin Kroenke.
Oh boy.
No.
Martin Kroenke, you've got a feel for him fighting with... Oh my goodness me, Kroenke just gets hit around heading into turn number 1. That is the kind of accident that you desperately hope you want to avoid. And the VRS car and the SimSport driver just facing the wrong way, having to fight all the way back. He's rejoined, mind you, in P number 14. So he still will be scoring a few points here and there, but not enough by any means whatsoever. Meanwhile, Patrick Holtzman has climbed his way up into P number 3 in the 27 car. But while all that has happened, Alex Aron in the number 999 car has gone in the pits. Nicholas Coates in the number 10 also in the pits. He's also the teammate of Timo Glock. And now, Max Benecke lapping, what, 4 tenths faster than anyone else? Benecke, 2 tenths, I beg your pardon. Benecke just set in the overall best lap time the last time out. So he's controlling the field from the very top. And now, Josh Rogers is trying to make something on Voss, the base competition driver. Can he get the number 7?
Yep, that number 7 machine was Alejandro Sanchez making contact with Martin Kroenke. We do have real-world race stewards, so they'll be looking at that contact. We are getting penalties coming through from Ricardo Edelman, who is our race director for today. And fantastically professional setup from VCO, not just with the broadcast, but all the way back to the race organisation and race stewards. And that is why we've got some of the very best, because they don't necessarily want to play in unfair racing. They want to play in a fair environment. Yellow League picking up a stop and hold penalty for causing a collision, presumably a bit early on in the race. Sometimes race control are a little bit further behind real world action because they've got so much to deal with.
Absolutely, quite a bit of drama going on everywhere. And while that goes on, Sebastian Job has just turned up the intensity levels to 11, because now that he recognises that he's around 1.3 seconds behind Max Benecke in that Team Redline machine, he's gone in and also has posted another overall best, a 1 minute 45.823, a second faster than Max, a tenth faster, I beg your pardon, than Max Benecke. So these guys are really closing up to each other, trying to pile on the pressure. And in the midfield, there's one battle that you really should watch out for. It's the one between Alexander Voss with the Voss and Foley car against Einstein Guven and Joshua Rogers. So right now, of course, Rogers is behind the wheel and so is Voss, because both of them are the Pro Sim drivers. But at the halfway mark, you're going to see them change. Rogers sends it down the inside line over there. He was trying to get the move done for P number 6. Has he got it done though? They're going side by side, Ben. This should be interesting. Oh,
a little bit of a slipstream down this front straight, and he does even have the inside line. So Rogers in the car right now and claims the apex. Just needs to give a little bit of room on the left-hand side, so they continue to run side by side. This is very brave in Formula 3 cars to the final corner of the lap. Oh, and there is a little bit of contact. Luckily, the barrier is not too close. It does send the car a little bit wide, but doesn't lose. Well, he lost 3 or 4 positions, but at least they can continue.
They can continue indeed, and they are continuing with some force. Let's take a look at the replay once again. Gets pushed to the outside, and man, that is just a little bit cheeky by Rogers, trying to assert his dominance, trying to tell him, hey, I'm the boss right here. And he got in and got the move for himself. Meanwhile, we are seeing this incredible battle. The 96 car is Alexander Vos still trying to battle out. That was K. Kashub right up ahead. And K. Kashub is quite the ace. He's done quite a fair bit in GT racing. Now in these Formula 3 cars, another chance for himself to prove why he's such a reputed driver. Defending off Alexander Vos, who's quickly come back from that on the slight detour in the background. And also, there's quite a bit of confusion within all the fans watching about how do we know when the pro drivers will come in. So there is a minimum, rather maximum drive time for these drivers, 25 minutes at the max, and rather midway through the race we will have a 6-minute pit window where all the pro sim drivers will come in, box the car and give it to the real world ones.
Matt Backham aboard the car that he shares with Sage Karam. Karam actually a Coanda Sim Sport driver in the sim world, as well as racing in the real world in the Indy 500 and the various other IndyCar championship races. Didn't have a full season of driving this year and therefore has plenty of time to practice on the sim. But at the moment it's Backham who is falling all over the back of Joshua Rogers. They will be in the same building, in fact, racing with each other, because Coanda have themselves a nice little house in Germany, and so all of the Coanda guys will be sitting in the same room.
They will be indeed. They've got a big house, all the drivers up together, trying to work with each other, trying to practice. Of course, trying to take things up to another level.
Whilst we are watching this fantastic battle, let's have a chat with one of our pro drivers all the way over from America. Fantastic to have Robert Wickens with us this evening. You're really getting into this sim racing thing, Robert. Amazing to have you with us.
No, thanks for having me. Yeah, the sim world, I still think I'm a rookie, but I have a lot to learn and I'm getting better and better. And honestly, this series is such a great idea because for me, I get free coaching from professional sim drivers. So I'm finding a lot of lap time, which is really good.
And I saw the other day you got yourself back out into a real car. That must have been a fantastic feeling and experience to feel the wind rushing past your helmet once again.
It was, karting is obviously such a big part of my childhood, and to get back to my home kart track that I grew up racing on, and in a 4-stroke kart, which is what I started karting on, it was kind of fitting that was my first step back into a real racing machine again. But yeah, there's a lot to come. Obviously, trying to figure out hand controls. There's no book on how to do it, so we're trying to figure out what's best for me, and it's a constant work in progress. But I can't thank everyone enough for all the support along the way. It's been a lot of fun, and right now we're doing good. We're running 14th. I qualified 22nd, which I was pretty happy about. But yeah, my pro here is putting in the work. It's good to see.
And as we can see your steering wheel and your hand controls there, how do you operate the car and this differently to how we would usually?
Yeah, so you see there's this lever right here. This is what I'm using for brake, similar to like Alex Zanardi type concept that what he drove in the DTM in Mugello and what he did obviously famously in the 24 Hours of Daytona. And then for the throttle, I'm actually just using the clutch paddles on the back of the steering wheel. It's not ideal, and I think this track in particular, there's a lot of throttle modulation, and I'm not as precise as I want to be on throttle. So, it's a constant evolution. It's a lot of work, but for right now, this is what I have.
Well, it's awesome to have you with us, and thank you so much for putting some time in and effort into the VCO ProSim Series. Look forward to seeing your progress throughout the year.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. This is a blast.
On board with Robert's teammate here, Andre in 14th position. Part of the Dutch team, and he at the moment is staring at the back of El Gabay, who we saw turned around in the Lotus 79 in the fun race earlier on. He'll be handing over to Miguel Molina at the moment battling over 13th position. So, as I said, there are points all the way down to 30th, Somil. So every battle counts, really.
Every battle does count towards the end, and you never know where that final point could come down to the line. Again, one of the drivers that's racing here today, he's synonymous with something like that. Timo Glock. Again, the famous phrase, is that Glock. That championship separated by only 1 point. Yes, this may not be Formula 1, the stakes aren't exactly that high, but for all these drivers competing, with the financial rewards on offer, with the chance of proving that you are the best of the very best, it's just about as intense. Meanwhile, Andre is closing up, trying to look for something again. Trying to keep his positions in the line, but at the very top as well. Benecke and Job are still trading blows against each other. The gap around 1 second. Patrick Holzman has been comfortable in P number 3. He's been thereabout. And there have been quite a few drivers who've been making positions in the midfield. Grant Carroll is up into P number 4. Rogers is up into P6. Alejandro Sanchez, the MSI Esports driver, in P number 5. A few big winners. In fact, Mac Backham and Sage Karam in the VR Squad and the Sim Sport car have also found themselves in 7th. So quite a few big winners. Meanwhile, there must of course be quite a few. Jimmy, in fact, finds himself in around P number 20. He, in fact, right now is P21. So smooth going in comparison to the fun race, but still a long way to go, Ben. And right about now is when we could see the pit window open.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've got about 5 minutes before the pit window can open. Remember, you have to do a maximum of maximum 25 minutes is all that you're allowed. Basically, we've only had 15 minutes of the race. So we've got about 4 or 5 minutes before the pit window opens. There's a moment of quiet in the race right now. It's all kind of settled down for a moment. So let's have a reminder of how we are able to do this with our partner, iRacing. A lot of my guilty pleasures in that clip. Once I've finished with my tournaments on a Tuesday evening, I like to do a little bit of rallycross and a little bit of pro truck as well. I wonder if we'll have some of our fun races run with those crazy machines. That's the beauty of iRacing. There are all kinds of vehicles to play with, not just the serious ones like the Formula 3 car that we're using tonight.
Absolutely, it's a very diverse racing series. Of course, we saw the fun race early on, trying to show exactly what you can do in these fun cars. Just trying to go out there and have a fun time, but let's focus on the main stuff, the real main course, the chunk of it all. And this is where the real battles are going on. In the midfield, of course, you can see quite a fair bit of drama, especially in the upper midfield. Is that the VR Squad Sim Sport car? I think that is Josh Rogers being chased right behind by, let's say, his teammate in the sim world. It's Mac Backham behind. The gap only 0.5 of a second, but behind them is quite a team. Felix Luding, who drives for Sim RC Racing in the real world. He's right there chasing Mac Backham right now. And Felix Luding's teammate is Raul Eiman. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his surname, my apologies. But he's done quite a bit of F3 racing in the real world. He knows exactly what he's going to do. And so this three-way battle in the midfield is one that could really bring up the entertainment level. So sit back, relax, and watch out for this one. For this is where the real explosive action could end up being.
Surnames, they're tricky, aren't they, Samil? Or even just first names. Can't get pronunciation right in anything. Rubens Barrichello, look, sharing the car with Jürgen Franke. So Franke on board that car right now in 15th position. Tommy Usgaard has done a very, very good job of getting himself up to 16th. I think he started at the very tail of the field. So up to 16th spot, he'll be handing over to Grinbergas, who set the time in qualifying, and Rubens Barrichello will be taking over the 111 car that leads that little battle. There are little clusters of cars all the way through the field. 1 second separates Benecke and Job right now at the head of the field. But Graham Carroll is challenging Alejandro Sanchez for 4th spot. Just half a second between those. And if you want to see all the live timing across all the different races, there is your to follow, vco.info/live timing, and then you'll be able to see all of the different battles that are happening throughout the field, and then you can play your own kind of TV director and say, oh, I think I'll be following this one right now. Let's go and see what Jimmy Broadbent's doing. Why has he lost time and lost a position? It's not an easy job choosing different battles when you've got 46, 47 cars that started the race. Huge field, and just shows how amazing the whole VCO organisation have done to bring so many cars and so many drivers into this series. Points to 30th spot, so very much worth fighting for every single bit of track around this Motegi circuit.
And the interesting thing over here, Ben, it's not that these are any drivers. These are all proper big names in the world of real-world racing and also in the world of sim racing. Right now, of course, we are seeing the pro sim drivers move being made right there. That's Thomas Petitjean, who's closing up for P number 20. He, of course, is the teammate of Romain Grosjean, sending something down the inside with great intent, like a general, like an admiral, closing on that position and getting it with some force. That was a really strong and smart move executed by Thomas Petitjean right there, grabbing P number 20 for himself, and he moves up ahead of Pablo Lopez.
There's a quick look at all the various drivers. Will Stevens on his Twitter, up the top, evening Will, waiting to get into the car, I think, and various other pro drivers waiting to take over from their esports counterparts. Raul Hyman just in the middle of the screen as well. Max Verstappen will be taking over from Maximilian Benecke. Just a second between the two, and Verstappen will have to have the challenge of Philipp Eng to contend with when Eng jumps aboard the Red Bull. Now, sometimes when you pit is really, really important. But I imagine with kind of the gaps as we've got them right now, there's not really an opportunity to undercut or overcut because you're in a big battle. So it'd be what kind of strategy they'll take. This is the time to do so. So plenty of chatting going on, I think, between our pro drivers and our esports races to decide when the best time to pit is.
Absolutely. Of course, these teams and drivers not really changing any tires or adding extra fuel, so it's all just a driver swap in this case. So for them, it's all about trying to find the right time and making sure that the tire temperatures are just about perfect when you come back on. Because remember, these Formula 3 cars, just about as sensitive, let's say, as an angry bull in this case. So when you just don't get your tire temperatures right, it snaps. Well, pretty much snaps like an angry Asian mother on their child, essentially, most of the time. So that's what it can do if your temperatures are not correct. Meanwhile, in the number 5 car, that is Martin Kronke, after that big spin, rather crash early on in the early parts of the race, he's closing up on P number 11. Salvat Talens is driving that number 4 car for P11. Of course, Kronke just trying to eke in, just closing up that gap, trying to get a little bit more. For him, he'll want a strong top 10 finish after that rather disappointing crash early on in which he got taken out. But of course, race control always there to serve justice when it's needed.
Plenty of cars pitting from the back end of our field. So that's good news for the guys at the front of the field, because that does mean if they do pit, they're going to fall into a nice window rather than getting held up by some of the slower cars. So we've got the likes of Chembuluk Bashi now aboard, Will Stevens aboard, Daniel Junkendella, Timo Glock is also just taken over, and now here come our leaders. Benecke in, Job in, Holtzman in, Sanchez in, Graham Carroll in. Matt Backham stays out, and so Backham will inherit the lead of the race. And that's interesting because he would be handing over to Sage Karam. Kekashiv also staying out. Alexander Voss staying out, as is Martin Kronke. So one extra lap from them, but there's not a huge amount of potential for different strategies here. But the top leaders, they all should make exactly the same pit stop. There shouldn't be a need for anything other than the driver change back out onto circuit again.
Absolutely, but it's all a case of the acrimony that could happen when all these cars rejoin against each other. Now, when these guys come back on track, the guys that pit next out are going to be trying to lap as fast as they possibly can just to get an advantage. And now for them, for all the pro racing drivers who have come out on track right now, it's just about trying to get your tyres up to the right temperature as soon as possible. And this is where the drama could happen, because there are a few pro sim drivers who are about to pit right about now, and when they come out, the real world pros who are on their outlap could just be right there. And it's a pretty easy concept. A car on the pit road, a car just exiting pit road, and a car on the track going side by side and determined at Motegi. It's probably the easiest recipe for a bit of drama.
Worked out really, really well for our leading 10 cars or so. They all came out into a nice, clear part of the track, and so they continue. We will get the rest of the field in this time by, but Max Verstappen leads Philipp Eng by a second, as we had before the pit stops. The winner, really, is Marius Zug, taking over from Alejandro Sanchez, and Zug is up to P3 virtually. And look how difficult this pit lane is. You've got to get it right, and there's a lot of opportunity for mistakes. But now the front of our field come into the pits. Matt Backham, Keika Schub, Alexander Voss, Martin Kroenke, and over to their real-world pros and get back out on the circuit. And we'll get back to an order that we were more familiar with 15 minutes to run. Spengler will be jumping aboard the number 5. Taking over from Martin Kroenke. That is really a very, very strong team. The way that these teams were formed, by the way, is they were on their I ratings given the opportunity to choose a teammate. So because of the best I rating, Max Benecke was able to choose Max Verstappen, and then we went all the way down to the person or the drivers with the least good I rating, and they were eventually partnered with somebody else. So the odd kind of team choice with terms of kind of Red Bull driver with Red Bull driver, or BS competition relation, or things like that. But ultimately, it was pretty much a free choice for everybody. But for sure, the guys at the top of the field, the guys with the best I ratings, had more of a choice of teammate.
It's an interesting word that he used there, Ben, least good I rating. And that's a very important term, because all of these drivers really have I rating by their side. Some of them 10k I rating, 9k, 7, 8, 4. That's a proper mix of all these drivers, and I rating cannot exactly be the defining factor all the time. We've seen drivers, young, fresh talents, fresh on the service, get to around 3, 4k I rating, and sometimes even topple the giants. So there's a proper mixed field out there, and right now we are seeing the pro drivers. And now, of course, Verstappen leads, and I think it's a very, very good time to come in for a quick interview, Ben.
Well, Alexei Nesov, we were watching, did not make a very good start on his first lap. Really struggled on his first lap. Remember, those 3 Red Bull liveried cars were running together, but Holtzmann gave over to Alexei Nesov, and then that's 7 seconds back off the leading 2 drivers, and Lauren Heinrich is desperate to get past. So it's going to maybe see a change for 3rd position as Zug, Sanchez, and because that battle that we saw in the first half of the race continues. Ayhan Guven, one of the strongest guys in iRacing, now making his progress felt. Ayhan Guven's teammate is Josh Rogers. He's jumped out of his car. Bit of a party atmosphere at Coanda headquarters this evening, Josh, with all of you guys participating.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's an event that we've been looking forward to for a long time. It's an exciting new format that, for sure, I think is putting on a good show for everybody.
And you've got have you still got Ayhan in your house as well? So have you got your teammate next door to you?
Yeah, we do. He's just over my left shoulder at the moment. So obviously watching him in the sim and also there as well, so it's a little bit of a different atmosphere, but he's doing an awesome job so far, and hopefully he can call back some of that lost time from my mistake at the beginning. I'm still frustrated about that, but I guess we all make mistakes, and I can only take that and learn and try to make sure that we don't do that for the next one.
Must be weird though, you guys all together in the sim house, some of you working together like you and Ayhan, but others you're racing against.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the race went smoothly so far between Mac and I. So in that scenario, we don't have anything to biff about. But if something was to go wrong, maybe there could be a little bit of a heated situation. But at the same time, we're all great mates here, and we know how to separate our kind of sim racing side of things and personal life. So it is a little bit of a different situation, I suppose. Yeah, than most other teams, but we make the most of it and have a good time doing it as well.
And these challenges, number one, of a fixed setup race. Not often do you guys do that anymore. Number two, a track that you don't know that's going to happen until, 2 hours? You get a feeling, and then these Formula One drivers change everything.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the trickiest thing, was trying to kind of track the pole and kind of see how it was going to pan out. I mean, I think ultimately for us, you could kind of get a rough idea after kind of Max obviously did his little tweet there. For the last few hours, we basically knew it was going to be Benecke, so tried to prepare as much as we could. But I think, it's definitely that kind of different format that mixes things up. I think you can't, practice one combo all week and really put all your eggs in one basket, because you never really know what's going to happen last minute. So, no, it's been fun and enjoyable overall so far, and obviously back-to-back races, so that should be interesting.
You guys are so used to driving GT cars now. Is it quite fun to be back in a single-seater?
A little bit, yeah. Obviously, I didn't have too much in the single-seater back in the day. I qualified for the World Championship Series in 2018 and raced that for a season before it switched over to the Porsche Cup. So I didn't drive it as much as maybe some of the other guys in our team. But I know that some of that says my similar situation is similar to a lot of other guys in the field as well. So, but it is a nice, pleasant change. I think obviously the racing is a little bit different, because you have to obviously always be mindful and cautious of the fact that you don't have anything protecting the wheels around you. So, but yeah, other than that, to be honest, the car drives really, really nice, and the driving style isn't too different from other cars that we're used to. So it makes it a little bit easier to jump in and out of those cars, or Porsche Cup or Supercar, like I've been doing lately. So it's been a pleasant change, that's for sure.
Josh, thanks very much for chatting to us. We've got 10 minutes left of the race, and I'm sure you're willing to get over the shoulder of Arjan and push him on as he chases down Lauren Heinrich for fourth position right now. Alexei Nezov has found a little bit of pace, but there is a decent little battle going on for P3. Here, further down the field, Romain Grosjean has taken over from Petit Jean. I think he was one of the drivers that got caught up in the first lap incident, and so that car has been needing to make up places. Jens Klingmann at the moment, the BMW driver, behind him, and just amazing, Sunil, to have the names like Romain Grosjean, Antonio Felix da Costa, then names that perhaps are less famous to the world of motorsport, but still incredibly fast drivers like Jens Klingmann, who's a factory BMW GT driver, a great mix of drivers. Robbie Foley, all the way across from the USA, also taking part.
Absolutely. It's something that really makes me feel very happy to see all the GT drivers, endurance racing drivers, get credit where it's due in championships like this one, because normally as motorsport fans, the focus usually just tends to go on the single-seater championships, your Formula 1s and your Formula Es. Not to say that they're bad, but sometimes the real chunk of the action that we see in GT racing, endurance racing, just often gets missed out. And so when these drivers are able to show their potential on a big stage like this one, where we have quite a few of the fans of single-seater racing series watching on, it really makes my heart feel incredibly warm. And that aside, though, there are quite a few other drivers proving they were trying to make sure they're getting exactly what they intend to ride here. Robbie Foley, one of them, in fact, currently in P number 9. He's closing up Elias Sapanen in P number 8. So the gap only around 0.4 of a second. They're having a bit of a scrap for that position. And of course, with all the points on offer right here, it could be a battle worth following. Of course, Foley having a bit of a lockup, not really having the biggest flat spot in the world, but you keep on doing that, and the flat spot could be what? The size of the craters on the surface of the moon. And that car will essentially become undrivable.
Another legendary, awesome livery, kind of a snakeskin. All these drivers were able to choose their liveries from all the various different paint jobs that were supplied to VCO, and shout out to the livery drawers. That's just so cool, isn't it? Let's just run through then the top six positions in terms. So Max Verstappen, Formula 1 driver, Philipp Eng, DTM driver, Alexei Nesov, Formula 4 driver, Lauren Heinrich, Carrera Cup driver, Aychan Guven, Super Cup driver, Sage Karam, sometime Indy 500 driver, Raul Hyman, probably Formula 3 now, Alice Sapanen is in Formula 4, Robbie Foley's in IMSA, Bruno Spengler is also in IMSA for BMW, Tim Heinemann is racing in Germany in the DTM Trophy. So such a varied grid. It's so cool to see. And that's just the top 10. We've got Antonio Vince Costa, Rubens Barrichello, 14th position. Romain Grosjean, Miguel Molina, Philippe Albuquerque, 21st. The likes of Alex Prema, who I don't know really what he does now, but he was doing Aussie V8s for quite a while. Further down, Rafael Marcello and Louis Delatraz has had so much experience in the world of sim racing and real world racing this year, raced on all different platforms. So great to have Delatraz on iRacing when he's taken championship on R-Factor 2 by winning the Virtual 24 Le Mans. He also was very high up, if not the champion of the Assetto Corsa Competizione SRO Championship. So that's another string also, Samil, not just to be a good real world and sim world driver, but then be good on all the different platforms that are on offer.
Absolutely. All these platforms offer their different challenges, and essentially they do share quite a few similar cars and circuits, but each of them are built differently, each of them are designed differently, and to master each different sim, it takes a lot of practice. So you can simply say, okay, I'll attach my wheel, attach my pedals, I'll simply drive X, Y, Z, everything's the same. Trust me, it's not. It's completely different. Meanwhile, while all of that is happening, I just saw Antonio Felix da Costa losing out a position, dropping down to P number 18 instead of where he was in P number 17. That was Jens Klingman who got the position in. So there was a bit of a scrap going on right there. But as it stands, Aychan Guven on your screen is trying to get something on Lauren Heinrich. And Heinrich and Guven, they've had a fair share of battles early on. They are going to be scrapping for P number 4 right now. Guven is closing up. You can see Heinrich just trying to move out of the way, trying to avoid the lap traffic, and trying to make sure that Guven just does not get the draft. That is going to be something very interesting, Ben. With only 5 odd minutes left to go, what can Guven do here? Can he pile on the pressure? Can he upset the apple cart for Heinrich and perhaps spoil the chances for a podium?
Blue flags for Alexei Nesov, Lauren Heinrich in the slipstream, Aychan Guven we ride on board with. The Formula 3 car out of the way now. I can tell you Charlie Martin, who shares the car with Jimmy Broadbent, she has or is still in the pits, so she's had a moment somewhere, but trying to break the toe now is Alexei Nesov. He definitely does not have the pace of Patrick Holzman, who he took over from, but since that very, very poor first lap and lost 5 or 6 seconds, actually, his pace hasn't been too bad. Lauren Heinrich all over the tail of him, but they are slow. Philipp Eng, who is solidly in second position, 5 seconds back from Max Verstappen, but that's the gap between second and third is closing. So it's not as though Alexei Nesov is particularly slow now. It's just the guys around him are a fraction faster, and really Lauren Heinrich is desperate to get past now.
And Heinrich showing his class, just trying to make sure that he cracks under pressure Nesov. This is what good racing drivers do. They don't directly go for a dive bomb all the time and try to make over-exuberant or flashy moves. They keep on working, keep on trying to attack the pressure and just try to build it up, try to break it. And then when the one moment comes in, strike, and they get their man. Nesov, of course, trying to make sure that Heinrich does not get the draft by any means whatsoever, and he will want to do that because that podium placement, lots of financial rewards are also in place for that one.
Yeah, let's not forget that there are points. 35 points for the win, 32 points for second position, or 30th position. There are points, but also there are dollars, $1,000 for the winner of each of our races. Meaning a prize pot in total of $50,000, and of course the CIFAT system and the D-Box D3 system available for our champions overall. Now we may see some drivers disappear out of the championship due to other commitments. We might see others come in, the likes of Stoffel Van Dorn, for instance, we're expecting to see in a couple of races time. He'll be taking over actually from Lauren Heinrich So it's really good for Graham Carroll's championship, because Graham has got two really strong competitors. And one of our first kind of replacement drivers in, Harry Ticknell, came in. And where is Harry? Actually, we haven't seen too much of it. Maybe his race was rather short because he's at the very tail of the field. Plenty of cars running, but about 3 or 4 laps down after various damage. You can, if you get the car back to pits, have a pit stop and fix it and go back out again. But obviously, then you are well out of the possibility of points. But they still are on the lead lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, another pairing rather, I like to bring my attention to Robert Wickens. We just had a chat early on. He's currently racing in P number 13. So Wickens, even with the hand controls, he said he's not quite able to feel the throttle as much. He wants to be a bit more sensitive. Nevertheless, even with all that aside, Wickens still driving in P number 13. And I'll tell you what, his lap times are fairly competitive too. So Robert Wickens, a massive salute to him. What fighting spirit he's showing right here, fighting in P number 13 right now. But that aside, this battle is the one we should focus on. Look at these Red Bull Racing Esports drivers getting close. The timer is ticking away. It's like sand in your hand. You try and grip it as close as you possibly can, but it will still disappear. For these guys, they have to fight the clock and fight each other.
Lauren Heinrich is desperately trying to distract Alexei Nezov, moving around in his wing mirrors. Nezov is zigging left. Aychan Guven smells blood here. They might have the same kind of livery, but I reckon that Guven really fancies a position on the podium if these two guys take each other out. We've got about two laps left. This isn't the last lap. Verstappen leads by 5 seconds now, and there's a 5-second gap from Philipp Eng to here. But we are getting very close to the end of this race, and the more that Nezov moves around like that, the more that's going to push Heinrich into Aychan Guven, and Guven is not going to say no to a second opportunity. I thought that Heinrich looked really good through that last corner on the last lap, and well, we haven't got to the end of the lap, but that switch back left-right seemed to have more momentum, but just couldn't quite get it done into turn one.
Yep, couldn't exactly get it done, and the chances are running out for him. He gets close, nose-to-tail racing action, which is exactly what we expected here in the VCO ProSIM Series. Possibly the final lap coming up right now, weaving around right there, trying to avoid the draft, but still, he's going to attack. He sends it down the inside, a bit hesitantly, blocks off the door, and the 26 car still stays behind. Heinrich is so desperate for that move, and he goes to the outside line for this one. Ben, I'm on the edge of my seat. This is probably a good time for a voice crack.
This is where he's really good. Through the last couple of corners, he just gets the turn left and right. It seems to work really well for him. But the movement of Nezov and the slipstream that he's not providing just doesn't allow the car to get alongside. And then he's certainly nowhere near as slow. I don't know about this weaving stuff. Race control haven't said anything yet, but there's a lot of movement from Nezov that really makes it quite dangerous for Heinrich to put his car anywhere near alongside. This is the last lap, though.
Stakes higher than ever. Heinrich will want to make that move, will want to make it stick. Meanwhile, if there's been one dominant team today, it has been the Team Red Line one, but let's focus on this one. It's a mistake right there by Heinrich. Guven is going to pounce on this one. To the inside, swerves up and waits. Guven does not send it.
No, that was too dangerous. It was too tight to get it down the inside. It would have been an accident for sure. And I think Heinrich is good enough to cover off Aychan Guven. This might be a great track for Max Verstappen. It doesn't necessarily lend itself to really good Formula 3 racing, perhaps in touring cars where you can rub a little bit more. But we are on the final lap. Verstappen has started his final lap. He is only 5 seconds to the good of this lot, so he must have just got over the line before that clock went to zero. Here is Verstappen, and the checkered flag falls, but I'm not quite sure for who. It is Verstappen, who now comes across the line and takes the checkered flag. Max Benecke did the hard work. Verstappen got the car on pole, and then it's been a cruise to the flag for Verstappen and Philipp Eng and Sebastian Job take P2. And what a battle between Nezov, Heinrich and Guven for that third place on the podium at the end there. Nezov holding on after Patrick Heusmann's really good effort. And somebody's spinning in the background. Who was that? Robbie Foley, perhaps? Because he's missing from our timing screens. Yes, Foley spins and does recover, but drops a couple of positions right on the last corner.
My goodness me, talk about having a dramatic ending towards the end right there. What a superb race it was. And also, top marks to Philipp Eng and Sebastian Job as well. They ended up finishing in P2, but not really in the spotlight because they didn't win or were not involved in the battle. But Heinrich still only just holds on to the position ahead of Einchen Guven, and the gap, oh my goodness me, barely anything. But what a performance it has been from the Team Redline crew of Max Verstappen and Max Benecke. Well, they say when you have two Maxes together, the points that you get are absolutely maximum. 3 points for pole and all the top marks, all the top points for the win, Ben. And meanwhile, all the battles that we were seeing in the background right there, it was Nezov who just held on to P number 3. So the Nezov-Holzmann car does get the third step on the podium, but Heinrich finishes 4th. Einchen Guven in 5th, as you can see right there. Guven for the Rwanda SimSport team. And then Sage Schauer and Mac Backham finishing in 6th. Raul Lehmann and Felix Luding, finishes in 7th. Bruno Spengler and Martin Kronke, after that early incident in the opening part of the race, they end up finishing in P8, which is, let's say, a fairly respectable position, considering all that's happened. Foley and Vos, after that rather unfortunate final spin, end up in P number 9. And Elias Stepan and Keike Schub finishing up in P number 10. But it's not like Formula 1 points are awarded to the top 30, not just the top 10. Then, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So points all the way down through Tim Heinemann, Grinberges, Marius Zug, Robert Wickens finished 14th. Rubens Barrichello, that is very good for Rubens in 15th position. Romain Grosjean 16th. Good little team, those two, for RGA Esports. Da Costa 17th, Klingman 18th, Morad 19th, and Sede Camera in 20th position. Although actually Mike Epps taking over that car for this round. Albuquerque in 21st, Molina in 22nd, Matt Campbell 23rd, Tony Kanaan in 24th position, Chembulet Bassi 25th, Rafael Marcelli 26th, Alex Prema 27th, Danny Ukundela 28th, Will Stevens 29th, and then Richard Wagner in 30th position, 1 lap down, and the last of our point scorers. And therefore, these are the guys who missed out on points in this first round. Big names like Louis Delatraz, Timo Glock, Freberich and Mangen in 36th position, Chris Dudulu in 37th, and then Broadbent and Martin 38th, Nick Yellerly 39th, Bortolotti, which of course was Harry Tinknell in 40th, and these are the guys that got caught up in that first lap accident and were out of the race. So let's chat to our winners then. Max, Verstappen and Benecke. Hey, that was pretty cool. Max got himself on the pole position and actually a bit of a cruise to the end there.
Yeah, it was a simply lovely race, to be honest.
If every race could be that simple, eh, Max? Oh, here is Jimmy Broadbent. I don't know what he's doing. Jimmy, you didn't win. Go away. I'm talking to Verstappen. But Mr. Benecke, what a first stint. That start was unbelievable. No wheel spin at all.
Yeah, I mean, I practiced it. I can see that the camera is not really working well. I just tried to set up a second setup. But anyways, the start was fantastic. I mean, I knew I was on very cold tires. So the point was just to cruise around the first 1-2 laps. And that's what I did. And luckily it worked out. And I got quite a big gap of a second because the slipstream starts at 0.6, 0.7. And from there on, I just try to maintain the gap and look after my tires so that I can maybe pull away in the end again. And then suddenly the grip came and I was a bit faster again. And then Max was going into the car and he was just doing his job. Almost had the fastest lap time. So he's quick.
Oh yeah, who was faster between you two? I didn't see.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We won.
All right.
Okay, so that was Benecke then. But you didn't really need to go fast, Mr. Verstappen. It was you didn't have much of a challenge from Philipp Eng behind you. So really, just keep the car on the track and get to the flag.
Yeah, I mean, Maxi already put the car in a good position. So for me, it was just getting used to the cold tires a little bit in the first lap, and from there onwards, just try to make no mistakes and bring it home. To be honest, I mean, yeah, it was like there was no pressure from behind, so it was all just trying to do the best lap times I could without taking too many risks.
And how about this? It's been a while since you took a race victory and took some dollars in your pocket for doing so.
Yeah, it's been Silverstone. What was it? July. So I'm happy to be on the top step of the podium again. It's been a while.
Fantastic, Max, and really good to have you guys with us. I look forward to seeing how you guys get on for the full rest of the season.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
These guys know each other very, very well in terms of competing with each other. Sunil, it's been quite a special evening.
It has been indeed. We saw an incredible fun race with the Lotus 79s at Watkins Glen. And after that, the qualifying session, just how tight it was. And we kind of expected some really good battles in the race, which is exactly what we got. You couldn't really ask for more. Top sim racing drivers, top real world racing drivers, all clubbed together in this incredible Formula 3 car. Man, it's just the perfect recipe for a good event.
Look who keeps popping up. Just, hey, come and talk to me, Jimmy Broadbent.
Hello.
How is your racing, Jimmy? You've been racing. We're now going to talk about it.
Oh yeah, okay. Funny that. It was going fine until it wasn't. We had nice bit of roughing with Rafa, and we lost a wheel. And I wasn't around to go into the gravel trap and pick it up, so we had to retire, unfortunately. But I think we went from 41st to 21st in the first stint, and avoided the T1 massacre again. Bit of a running theme there, but it was a lot of fun whilst it lasted.
Yeah, kind of not really a chance to get into a rhythm, was it? The race was the stints are so short.
Yeah, it's only a short thing in that. It's sort of weird doing stints in the Formula 3 car, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's a very odd car that to drive quickly. It's the brakes are scary. I haven't quite got used to them yet, but still fun car anyway.
It's scary in what way?
So if you hit too much of the brakes, like over 50% of the brake pedal, all four wheels just go. Go flying off in one direction somewhere. So
I'm glad that's not me. I had a go with it the other day, and it's just exactly what you're describing. I just couldn't understand what was going on. Take me back to my little Skippy. It's much easier.
Yeah, it is.
All right, Jimmy. So we're going to see you for the rest of the season. I think you've got lots of different competitors to join you, and if you're not racing, then you're joining me. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. They're definitely going to be racing for all of these things. So,
how are you?
Should
are
be,
you looking forward to the racing
bit
so you don't have to commentate?
No, I don't want to talk to you, mate.
Awesome, Jimmy. Thank you very much for joining us. Well done for training Charlie Martin and getting her up to speed as much as possible. And make sure you tune into the shed on Tuesday evenings with Jimmy. He does a little chat show pre-race, and of course the next race is next week. So just 1 week from now, we'll get round 2 in our pockets, and from Monday onwards, you'll be voting for which track they'll be racing on in the Formula 3 cars for the second round of the championship. But final thoughts, really, because we're coming to the end of our show, Somil.
No, that was fun. On the whole, it could have been far worse. Of course, multiple drivers. The sim racing drivers expected quite a fair bit of contact coming into this one. They said, yeah, it's Formula 3 cars. It's barely any practice for all of them on any single circuit, so it could be quite tricky. Yes, we did see a few incidents early on, but towards the end, the kind of racing that we saw is exactly why everyone tunes in. And that just made it all the more sweet to see all the battles that we got, especially for positions that were very significant in the championship. So if I had to round off, it just ended on a very sweet note. And the best part is we get to do it all over again in 7 days' time. It just gets me buzzing, and I'm pretty sure it should get you buzzing as well. Well, while that happens, we also have another interview as well for you. It's a rather fun one, this one. We are going to have Timo Glock. Yes, it is Timo Glock right here with us. And we're just going to have a quick chat with him. Timo, firstly, can you hear us? Can you hear me, rather?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Timo, what sort of a race was it for you towards the end? It got fairly chaotic for quite a few teams and drivers. What was it just like from your perspective?
Yeah, it was good fun to watch, I have to say. I mean, I qualified and I didn't realize that I did... out of the 5 laps, I think 5 with track limits, and didn't realize that my lap didn't count. So therefore, we had to start from the back. But in general, I think the first lap we gained 17 positions, and then unluckily Niklas hit another car, and we had the broken suspension, so we had to go back to the pits, and then just drove the last couple of laps, but being like 3 or 4 laps behind. But that doesn't matter, I think it was I think quite fun to watch. And getting the first race under our belt for everyone who organized the VCO Pro Series, I think is already a big achievement. And for sure, there are still things we need to improve. But happy that we had good drivers on board, good names, and good fun today.
Well, Timo, it's been a long while since you last drove a single-seater car professionally. What was the whole experience like, just coming back racing Formula 3? It must be a slightly frustrating race after all that's happened, but still, must be quite a fun thing, isn't it, just to come back and drive these rather nimble cars around?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the beginning, I struggled quite a lot, to understand how to drive the car quick. I'm still trying to learn. I mean, I followed a bit Max Verstappen around the track on the onboard camera and Max Benecke, so to learn a bit what the pros are doing, but it's pretty impressive how accurate they drive every lap and being so consistent. But I'm learning lap by lap and getting more behind it, and I hope I'm going to improve again. I mean, I did a lot of laps in the last couple of days to try to get up to speed, but there's still a long way to go for me to catch up to the top guys. But I'm motivated and I can't wait for next week.
Should be fun. And lastly, Timo, you were also very involved in organizing this whole series. And what was your role essentially in making this series come about? And what's the experience been like so far?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I just tried to get the drivers on board, and, I just came last year, at the beginning of the year when we had the lockdown. I just got that simulator and started the game, and I got involved with Antonio, Felix, Costa, who put me into that WhatsApp group where all the drivers were in, and then I realized how much fun this is. And I did one race together with Rubens for a charity event where a lot of big names were on board, and I just said, that's such a good environment, such a good show and fun. We should try to organize something over the winter to have sort of a championship race with the big names. And that was actually my plan to get this on board. I mean, Florian and these guys did all the back work to organize everything. And then I just, collected drivers. And I have to say there was not even one driver who was not happy to come on board. And that was really nice to see. And I just hope it's the first step. And let's see where that goes.
Should be absolutely fun. Timo, I can't tell you how much of a privilege it is to have a chat with you. I remember commentating your name when I was a 5-year-old kid playing all these Formula 1 games and just like that. It's a real pleasure to have you on and to have a chat with you. All the very best for the next races, and it's just a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Ciao, ciao.
Well, that, folks, was Timo Glock. A really fun chat. And now, of course, folks, it is time to call it a day right here for the VCO ProSim Series. A lovely beginning, some incredible racing, all the top names here on offer, and we shall be back next week. So where do we go next time up? We have no idea. The fans, you decide where we go next time up. The voting begins on Monday, and you can choose which of 4 circuits would you like to see these guys race on next Wednesday. So, folks, I think it's time to say goodbye and good night. But just before you go, take a listen at this rather lovely composition by Philipp Eng, the song Racing is Life, which is the theme song of the VCO ProSim Series. Have a listen and goodbye and good night. Ciao.